Welcome to your own deep dive with us today. We are going to be journeying back in time to explore a pretty dramatic chapter of the Bible, Genesis chapters 31 through 40. It's the continuing saga of Jacob and his family, and yeah, things get pretty intense.
They do. We've got family feuds,
Oh, yeah.
divine interventions, and some seriously wild twists and turns.
It's a wild ride. Buckle up, everybody.
Yeah, I think what makes this section of Genesis so fascinating is how human it feels, even though it's, thousands of years old. It's like we're peeking through a window into these, raw, messy family dynamics, you know? Love, jealousy, betrayal, all played out against these ancient customs.
Yeah, yeah. And divine encounters, too.
And divine encounters, of course, yeah.
So, okay, let's jump right in. We start with Jacob deciding to make a run for it. He's leaving his father-in-law, Laban, after 20 years.
20 years.
He feels cheated and mistreated, so he packs up his wives, kids, and literally everything he owns and sneaks away in the night.
Yeah, this flight from Laban, it isn't just some dramatic escape.
Right.
It's like this power struggle between two really shrewd guys, like negotiators.
Yeah, yeah.
Both of them are totally willing to bend the rules to get what they want.
Oh, yeah?
The text actually portrays both Jacob and Laban as pretty cunning, which, it makes you wonder who's really in the right here.
It's true. It's true. They're both kind of shady.
Yeah.
And then just to add more drama to the situation,
Okay.
Rachel, Jacob's wife,
Huh?
steals her father's household gods.
Bold move.
I know. It makes you wonder, what was she thinking?
Well, you gotta imagine these idols weren't just like statues.
Right.
They were deeply symbolic, almost like a modern day family heirloom,
Yeah, yeah.
Passed down for generations. So maybe she's taking them as a way to kind of assert her own family's independence from Laban, almost like grabbing a piece of her heritage as they go off to start this new life. Or some scholars even think she may have seen those idols as like a source of power or protection
Interesting.
for her family on their journey.
Yeah, that definitely adds another layer to their escape. But of course, Laban is not having it.
No.
He's furious. He sets off after them with a whole posse, wants to get his daughters and his possessions back.
Right.
But then something interesting happens. God steps in.
It's like this divine intervention, It really brings in this whole spiritual aspect to this family drama. God basically warns Laban, don't you harm Jacob, So he stops. He has to stop pursuing them. It makes you think about, those moments in our own lives where we might feel guided or protected by a force beyond ourselves.
Absolutely. And it's interesting, Jacob earlier in Genesis had deceived his own father to get his blessing.
Right.
Now he's on the receiving end of deception.
Full circle.
It is. This mirroring between Laban and Jacob, it makes you realize these stories aren't just ancient history.
No.
They're like reflections of human nature itself.
Absolutely. It really makes you wonder, are we destined to kind of repeat these patterns in our relationships? Are betrayal and reconciliation just two sides of the same coin?
Right.
Big questions.
So after that narrow escape, Jacob is facing another really daunting prospect.
Yeah.
He has to have a reunion with his twin brother Esau.
Uh-oh.
Remember, years ago, Jacob tricked Esau out of his birthright, so there's definitely some bad blood between them.
Yeah.
Yeah. And Jacob's fear, totally palpable. He spends days getting ready for this encounter. Like he's planning a military campaign.
Strategizing.
Yes, he divides his camp. He sends waves of gifts ahead.
Wow.
He's doing everything he can to try to appease Esau and avoid a possible bloodbath.
Yeah.
But before this tense reunion happens, we get one of the most powerful scenes in the whole Bible. Jacob wrestling with a mysterious man all night long.
Wow.
Yeah. It's such a visceral, almost unsettling image of physical and spiritual struggle.
It's powerful.
It is powerful.
So we've got Jacob alone in the darkness, grappling with this unknown force.
Right.
And it's not just a physical fight.
Real.
It's really a metaphor for our internal battles that we all face. And, this struggle ultimately transforms him.
Yeah.
He gets a new name, Israel, which means he strives with God. It suggests that by facing our challenges, even those darkest fears, we can become stronger.
Right.
More connected to something bigger than ourselves.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And then after all that anticipation, the reunion with Esau finally happens.
Okay.
And guess what? They embrace.
Wow.
They weep. It's this incredibly tender moment of reconciliation. Such a stark contrast to that tension-filled standoff with Laban.
Yeah. It's almost like a sigh of relief, isn't it? It shows us that even in those really fractured relationships, forgiveness and healing are possible.
Yeah, it really is. But just when we think things are going to settle down, the narrative makes a hard left turn and introduces us to Dinah, Jacob's daughter. Her encounter with a man named Shechem just triggers this horrific chain of events.
Yeah. This episode really, plunges us into the complex reality of what it was like to be a woman back then. Mm-hmm.
The text doesn't shy away from those harsh patriarchal norms, the importance placed on family honor, and the tragic consequences when those norms are violated.
Absolutely. And we see such different reactions to this tragedy from Jacob and his sons.
Yeah.
Jacob wants to avoid more conflict, so he tries to make peace.
Right.
But his sons are fueled by anger and a desire for revenge. They plot this brutal act of deception.
This contrast really makes you think about those moments when our instincts for peace clash with that need to protect the ones we love.
Right.
Even if it means resorting to violence.
Yeah, it's like this constant reminder running through the story. Every action has a consequence.
Definitely.
Sometimes unintended and reaching so far beyond what anyone could imagine.
Mm-hmm.
And that brings us to kind of a turning point in the narrative.
Okay.
God instructs Jacob to return to Bethel, a place that holds, deep spiritual significance for him.
Yeah.
It's a call to return to his roots, renew his covenant with God, and try to find some stability. Right.
In this crazy time in his life.
Yeah. I mean, Bethel represents, this place of divine encounter for Jacob. Remember, he had that dream?
Oh, yeah. The ladder.
The ladder connecting heaven and earth.
Yeah.
Symbolizing God's presence, God's promise.
Right.
Think of it like a spiritual homecoming, a chance to reconnect with his faith after all the crazy stuff he's been through.
Yeah, totally. And this journey also includes a kind of a poignant moment of loss.
Oh.
Deborah, Rebecca's nurse, she's been with Jacob since he was a boy.
Right.
She passes away. It's a reminder, I think, of the passage of time.
Yeah.
And how important those people who care for us are.
Yeah, her death, it adds this layer of vulnerability
Yeah.
to the story, reminding us that even with all the blessings, life is still about loss and grief.
Yeah, it's real. It's true. And in the midst of this grief, God reaffirms his covenant with Jacob, officially changes his name to Israel again.
Wow.
Promises him countless descendants and the land of Canaan, echoing those promises made to Abraham and Isaac.
It's a really powerful moment.
Yeah.
Of hope, reassurance. God's plan is continuing even when things are tough.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
But, we've seen how joy and sorrow are often intertwined in this story.
Yeah.
The joy of this covenant renewal is quickly overshadowed by tragedy.
Oh, no.
Rachel, Jacob's beloved wife, dies during childbirth, leaving him just absolutely heartbroken.
That's so sad.
It is. And, this loss sets the stage for future conflict between his sons.
Among the brothers.
Yes. Yeah. Particularly between Joseph, Rachel's son, and his brothers. And it underscores how deeply personal grief can really shape family dynamics.
Yeah, sometimes in really painful ways.
Yeah. So we've got Jacob dealing with the loss of Rachel while trying to lead this increasingly divided family.
Right.
And then enter Joseph, Jacob's clear favorite.
Oh, boy. Here we go.
I know. Joseph is portrayed as this bright, charismatic young man. Maybe a little naive, especially about how much his brothers resent him.
Yeah, and that resentment stems from Jacob's favoritism, which is just so blatant.
It is. Remember the coat of many colors?
Oh, yeah. Classic.
It wasn't just a fashion statement. It was like this symbol of Jacob's preference.
Right.
And it just drove this wedge between Joseph and his brothers.
I can imagine just seeing that symbol of their father's love, constantly on display.
Right.
It's like throwing gasoline on that fire of sibling rivalry.
Totally. And then if that wasn't enough, Joseph starts having these vivid, crazy dreams. Dreams about his brothers bowing down to him. Even the sun and moon bowing to him.
Whoa.
And because he's a teenager.
Oh, no.
He can't help but share them.
These dreams, while they seem really self-aggrandizing on the surface, they actually carry this prophetic weight. They're foreshadowing. Joseph's future rise to power and how God's plan will unfold.
Right.
But in the moment, all it does is make his brothers more jealous.
Yeah. He's totally oblivious to the danger. And the tension keeps building and building until it explodes. Joseph's brothers can't hold it in anymore. They decide to get rid of him.
This is where the story takes a dark turn. It shows us how easy jealousy and resentment can just push people over the edge.
It really does.
Yeah.
And it's rough.
Yeah.
Reuben tries to save Joseph.
Oh.
But in the end, they sell him into slavery.
Wow.
Make up a lie to cover their tracks.
This betrayal, it's like this ripple effect throughout the family.
And Jacob is devastated.
Yeah.
He thinks Joseph is dead. He's in deep mourning, refuses to be comforted. It just shows the power of grief, especially when it's mixed with betrayal.
Absolutely.
So while Jacob mourns, we shift to Egypt.
Okay.
We follow Joseph's journey as a slave. It's a whole new story within the story. But you'll see how these seemingly separate threads all come together.
Okay.
We see that despite being betrayed and sold into slavery, Joseph tries to make the best of it.
Yeah.
He rises in the ranks in Potiphar's household, shows his integrity, leadership skills. Even in this terrible situation, he wants to succeed.
But even in Egypt, trouble finds him.
It does. He's falsely accused by Potiphar's wife.
Oh, no.
Thrown in prison. Seriously. Can this guy catch a break?
Right.
But you know what? His imprisonment, even though it was so unjust, it becomes this crucial step in his journey.
Okay.
It's in prison that his talents are recognized and his destiny starts to unfold.
And of course, it's his ability to interpret dreams. You know, the thing that caused him so much trouble back home.
I know, right?
It ends up saving him.
It does.
It's like that thing that was once like a source of conflict and betrayal back in Canaan becomes his source of hope, you know, and potential deliverance in Egypt.
Yeah. And what a deliverance it turns out to be. Pharaoh starts having these strange dreams. Dreams about fat cows and skinny cows.
Yeah.
Healthy grain, withered grain.
Clearly a message. Right.
Yeah, but no one in Pharaoh's court can understand them.
And then
the
butler, remember?
Yes. Who interpreted his dream in prison.
It's like fate.
I know. He's brought before Pharaoh, interprets the dreams, predicts 7 years of abundance, followed by 7 years of famine.
This isn't just dream interpretation.
Right.
This is like strategic foresight, you know?
Yeah.
He gives Pharaoh a whole plan.
Yes, to store grain during those good years
Yeah.
to prepare for the famine. And Pharaoh's like, this guy's brilliant.
Right.
Promotes him to this powerful position, basically in charge of saving Egypt from starvation.
Wow. What a turnaround.
I know. From slave to second in command.
It really highlights that theme of divine providence running through Genesis.
Yeah.
Even when Joseph is facing injustice and hardship, God is working behind the scenes, you know, guiding him towards his destiny.
It's true. And you know what happens next?
What?
The famine hits. Not just Egypt.
Right.
Canaan too. And guess who Jacob sends to Egypt to buy grain?
No way. His sons.
His sons. The ones who betrayed him all those years ago.
Oh my gosh, what a setup. You've got Joseph now in a position of authority.
I know.
Face to face with his brothers, the guys who left him for dead. It's the ultimate test.
It is. Of forgiveness and reconciliation.
Wow.
But instead of revealing himself right away, he tests them. Puts them through these challenges.
He's got to see if they've changed.
Right.
You know, learned from their past.
There's that scene where he imprisons Simeon, one of his brothers, as collateral. Demands they bring their youngest brother, Benjamin, to Egypt.
Benjamin, you know, Rachel's other son.
Right. The brother closest to Joseph.
This is a tough one. They're really caught between self-preservation and loyalty to their family.
Right. And then he plants that silver cup in Benjamin's bag.
Oh, wow.
I know. It's the final test. Pushing them to their limits.
Forcing them to really confront what they did.
Yeah. And this is where it gets really emotional. Judah, the brother who suggested selling Joseph into slavery in the first place, steps up, makes this impassioned plea to Joseph, begs to be taken as a slave in Benjamin's place, admits their past wrongs, says he's willing to atone for it.
It's amazing. Such a transformation for Judah.
Right now.
Genuine remorse, selflessness.
Such a far cry from that jealous brother we saw earlier.
It's this act of self-sacrifice that just breaks down the wall between them.
It does. Joseph can't keep it up anymore.
Right.
He reveals who he is, and all the emotions just pour out.
Wow. Relief, joy.
Forgiveness.
Right.
But also this deep sorrow.
Yeah, for all that's been lost.
I know. And what does he tell them? He tells them not to blame themselves. He sees God's hand in all of it, that God orchestrated these events for good.
It's powerful.
It is. Such forgiveness and acceptance. You know, he's not just seeing the human failings.
Right.
He sees this larger divine purpose at work.
Exactly.
And then, get this, he invites his whole family to live in Egypt,
Wow.
where he can provide for them and protect them during the famine.
That's beautiful.
It is. It's this beautiful image of reconciliation and restoration. The family that was once torn apart by jealousy and betrayal, reunited.
Yeah, finding strength and unity in the face of adversity.
So after this crazy roller coaster of emotion, years of separation and hardship, the story ends on this note of hope and redemption. But there's still so much to unpack here, don't you think?
Absolutely. These stories, they're more than just ancient history.
Right.
They're like reflections on us, on human nature. They make us ask questions about our own relationships, our capacity for forgiveness, and the mysterious ways our lives unfold.
It's amazing, how much happens in just this little section of Genesis.
I know, right?
Family drama,
Right.
political intrigue, divine intervention. We even get a little bit of ancient economic policy in there.
It's all in there. And what's really cool is how all these different elements, come together in this story. It's timeless.
Yeah.
It just speaks to like the core of what it means to be human. Yeah.
It really does. Love, loss, betrayal, and then ultimately the possibility of, redemption.
Exactly.
One of the things that really stands out to me is the power of dreams.
Oh, yeah.
In this story. I got Jacob's ladder dream.
Right.
Joseph's dreams about his brothers bowing down.
Yeah.
Even Pharaoh's weird dreams about those cows and the grain.
Yeah, they're not just like random things that happen,
Right.
They're messages from God. They offer guidance. They reveal the future, foreshadowing.
Yeah, it makes you wonder about your own dreams,
Totally.
Do they have hidden meanings? Could they be, connected to something bigger?
It's a good question.
It is. And speaking of, thought-provoking things, we can't forget about the women in these stories.
Yeah. The women are strong.
They are.
Yeah.
Rachel, Leah, Dinah, Tamar.
They make choices.
They do.
They take risks.
They challenge the norms.
Like Tamar. Think about her.
Yeah.
She was wronged, denied her rightful place. But did she just accept it? No. She took charge, even used deception to make sure her family line continued.
That was bold, especially back then.
Yeah, no kidding. It just shows how complex their lives were.
Right.
The challenges, the resilience they needed to survive in that kind of patriarchal system.
It's inspiring.
It really is.
So, we're wrapping up our deep dive on Genesis chapters 31 through 40. What's the one thing you hope people take away from all this?
I hope they come away with that sense of wonder.
Yeah.
And curiosity about these ancient stories. Because they still speak to us today across cultures and time. They give us insights into like what it means to be human. They challenge our assumptions and make us think about the big questions.
The big questions.
Right.
Faith, family, justice.
Yeah.
What our own journey means.
Exactly.
I got to say, I'm feeling pretty inspired. How about you?
Yeah, me too. It's like a reminder that even when things are chaotic and uncertain, there's always hope. Something better is out there, and we're part of something much bigger than ourselves.
It's a good reminder. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everybody. Hope you found it insightful and engaging, and maybe even made you think a little bit. Until next time, keep exploring, keep questioning, and keep discovering all the amazing things out there